Hello and welcome to a virtual tour of Mokena Intermediate School. This tour will include many aspects of MIS, including office, arrival, dismissal, and lunch procedures. You will also get to see a tour of our Learning Center, Computer Lab, Science Lab, and some of our teachers in our classrooms. Our main goal of this video is to inform any new parent to MIS of our procedures to make the seamless transition from the elementary school to us. We hope that you enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to call the office. MIS has a mission statement that plainly states what we hope to accomplish while your child is a student at MIS. Our mission is to provide a safe and secure learning environment in order to create lifelong learners while emphasizing respect, responsibility, and independent critical thinking. Now let's take a look at some of the procedures we have in place in the office. As we have expectations for our staff and students, we also have expectations for our visitors and volunteers. These fall under our three big expectations of be responsible, be respectful, and be safe. Please familiarize yourself with these expectations and strive to meet them when you come to visit or work. If you need to sign your student out early, please complete the information on the green clipboard. If you are visiting or volunteering, complete the information on the yellow clipboard. If you need to drop off a lunch or other school item after the school day has started, please leave it on the cart outside the office. The cart is periodically checked by the office staff, and items will be delivered to your child. Write your student's name on the item and leave it. Our arrival procedures are very easy. Let's take a moment to review these procedures now. As you are approaching MIS, enter the parking lot through the first driveway closest to the front of the building. Drive up to the front door and let your student out on the driver's side if possible.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Come on out.
Once your student exits your vehicle, you are free to leave the parking lot. Your child will then enter the building through the north doors and enter the commons. If your child has Mrs. Coltree, Mr. Dumford, Mrs. Edwards, Ms. Grice, Mrs. Hill, Ms. Horsch, or Mrs. Vetter as a homeroom teacher, your child will enter the north gym, be seated in the bleachers, and wait for dismissal to class. If your child has Mrs. Bayland, Mrs. Burnt, Mrs. Conroy, Mrs. Curtis, Mr. McGreal, Mrs. Miller, or Mr. Roberts as a homeroom teacher, your child will walk down the main hallway towards the south gym. Your child will then join their class in line and wait for dismissal to class. Each homeroom has a designated area to wait. Students will be supervised by our building aides and paraprofessionals. If your student rides the bus, your child will enter door I, which is between the north and south gyms. If your child has Mrs. Coltree, Mr. Dumford, Mrs. Edwards, Miss Grice, Mrs. Hill, Miss Horsch, or Mrs. Vetter as a homeroom teacher, your child will enter the north gym and wait for dismissal to class. If your student has Mrs. Bayland, Mrs. Burnt, Mrs. Conroy, Mrs. Curtis, Mr. McGreal, Mrs. Miller, or Mr. Roberts, your child will wait in the south gym for dismissal to class. Let's take a look at the commons where your child will be having lunch. Students will be brought to the gyms to have recess for approximately 10 minutes. The students can play a game of basketball knockout or walk and chat with their friends. After lunch recess, the building aides will assemble the homerooms to prepare the students for lunch. Students will be brought into the commons by homeroom for lunch. Students that had recess in the north gym will enter the line at Hut 1. Students that had recess in the south gym will enter the line at Hut 2. Students will need to take at least 3 choices of a fruit or vegetable. Students will get milk from the cooler and pay at the cashier station. Students may then retrieve any condiments, including napkins, from the table and will drop their lunch cart into their homeroom's bucket. Students will have 20 minutes to eat lunch. They may also sit with their friends from other homerooms during lunch. I'd like to show you now some of the other amenities at MIS that students will be using. Our Learning Center is stocked with over 1,000 books with some of the latest and greatest series and authors. Students will be brought to the Learning Center once a week by their reading teacher. Students can check out books and read in comfort on our couch. Students participate in Reading Counts at MIS, which is a reading program that motivates students to read independently and reinforces comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary skills. Our computer lab is equipped with approximately 30 computers. Twice a week, students will be brought to the computer lab to work on our new typing program, Type to Learn. Students will also utilize the lab for various assignments and projects. Our science lab has been cleaned up and redecorated to include educational posters that pertain to the units of study in both of our 4th and 5th grade curricula. Teachers can utilize the lab to provide hands-on learning environments and investigations. This lab will also be equipped with computers that will provide students further discovery opportunities. So, what did you think about our tour? Unlike arrival, there is a little more to our dismissal procedures. However, dismissal is a well-oiled machine at MIS. Let's look at how our students are dismissed. Bus riders are dismissed first so that buses can be on time for the runs at MES. If picking your student up by car, enter the parking lot through the far east driveway closest to the library. You will drive down to the end of the drive lane and turn into the next drive lane. 2 lanes of cars will be filled. The lane on the right will pull up to the building first. The second lane will pull up after the first lane empties. Please exhibit courtesy to others and follow procedures. Per Illinois School Code, while in an automobile, cell phone usage is not permitted within a school zone. When you pull up to the building, please pull as far forward as you can. Your student will meet you at your stopping point. Students will not be released to any car after the flagpole. You will need to wait until the cars ahead pull away. Then pull as far forward as you can. Following these procedures are going to ensure a smooth and easy dismissal process.
And we hope to have a successful school year with all of you new students and parents. Thank you for joining us on our video tour of MI.